And we're doing the best we possibly can.
Top U.S. health officials defended the Biden administration's response to the unrelenting pandemic in front of a Senate committee Tuesday, as the number of daily COVID cases soared to yet another new high and hospitalizations remained at a record level. President Biden's chief medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
This is an extraordinary virus, the likes of which we have not seen even close to in well over 100 years. It is a very wily virus. It has fooled everybody all the time, from the time it first came in to Delta to now Omicron. Very unpredictable, and we're doing the best we possibly can.
Biden, who has been accused of focusing on vaccinations at the expense of testing and support for struggling healthcare systems, told reporters on Tuesday he was confident the country was on the right track to fight the pandemic. His comments came as the U.S. reported 1.35 million new coronavirus infections on Monday, according to a Reuters tally, the highest daily total for any country in the world. And the number of hospitalized COVID patients also hit an all-time high, having doubled in the past 3 weeks. While the Omicron variant is potentially less severe, health officials have warned that the sheer number of infections could further strain hospital systems, some of which have already suspended elective procedures as they struggle to handle the increase in patients and staff shortages. Dr. Janet Woodcock, acting commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, gave senators a stark assessment of the challenges.
I think it's hard to process what's actually happening right now, which is most people are going to get COVID. All right, and what we need to do is make sure the hospitals can still function, transportation, other essential services are not disrupted while this happens.
Looks like we might be cresting over that peak.
But there are signs that the tide might be turning, at least in some places, like New York, where Governor Kathy Hochul said that while daily infections remain high, the rate of increase is slowing.
A glimmer of hope in a time when we desperately need that.
And in Chicago, the 7-day average of cases showed indications of a decrease last week, dropping 8% since the prior week, city data showed.
The economy no longer needs or wants the very highly accommodative policies that we've had in place to deal with the pandemic and the aftermath.
In testimony before the U.S. Senate Banking Committee, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said on Tuesday that the massive stimulus the central bank has been providing was no longer needed.
The economy's in a completely different place.
As the Fed shifts to focus on fighting inflation and plans to raise interest rates and decrease its balance sheet in 2022.
We're really just going to be moving over the course of this year to a policy that is closer to normal, but it's a long road to normal from where we are. Right now we are very highly accommodative, and it is really time for us to begin to move away from those emergency pandemic settings to a more normal level.
Powell also said he expected the country to power through the latest surge in coronavirus cases, and that any impact on the economy likely will not derail the Fed's plans to tighten monetary policy.
I expect the economy to continue to be able to deal with these outbreaks. I think it is likely, though, if the experts are right and Omicron is going to go through really quickly and peak perhaps within a month and then come down after that, I think it's likely you will see lower hiring and perhaps a pause in growth and that kind of thing. But it should be short-lived.
Powell told the lawmakers who appeared to be leaning towards endorsing him for a second 4-year term that rather than guarding against a pandemic-related downturn or promoting more job growth, it was now inflation that needed to be the focus.
Sometimes that's maximum employment, sometimes it's inflation. I'd say now it's inflation.
Inflation was top of mind for the senators during the hearing, and Powell told them he now thinks inflation will ease by the middle of the year, but that the Fed stood ready to do what was needed. U.S. stocks, which have started the year on a weak note, edged up during Powell's testimony, with energy and tech stocks posting the biggest gains.
Big-name tech and energy stocks spearheaded a rebound on Wall Street Tuesday, helping the S&P 500 snap a 5-day losing streak. Investors took relief in Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's testimony on Capitol Hill, where he said the economy was ready for the start of tighter monetary policy as the Fed shifts its focus to fighting inflation. O'Neill Global Advisors Senior Portfolio Manager Randy Watts said Wall Street liked what it heard.
I think the markets are relieved that the Fed is taking inflation more seriously. I think the market believes the Fed is a little bit behind the curve. I am personally hopeful that some of the supply chain issues that hurt the economy last year are going to start to ease up in the first half of this year.
The Dow gained 0.5%. The S&P 500 rose nearly 1%, and the Nasdaq shot up 1.4%. Among the S&P's top gainers, Las Vegas Sands, up nearly 7%. J.P. Morgan upgraded the stock of the casino operator to overweight. Shares of Moderna fell more than 5%. The World Health Organization said more research is needed to determine if existing COVID-19 vaccines offer adequate protection against the Omicron variant. Inflation-obsessed investors will closely eye the Consumer Price Index that comes out Wednesday. Economists expect an annualized rate of 7% in December, which would be well above the Fed's target.
As the highest paid employee in the entire federal government, yes or no, would you be willing to submit to Congress and the public a financial disclosure that includes your past and current investments? After all, your colleague, Dr. Walensky, and every member of Congress submits a financial disclosure that includes their investments. Where would we find it?
All you have to do is ask for it. You're so misinformed, it's extraordinary.
Why am I
ask for it.
misinformed? This is a huge issue. Wouldn't you agree with me that you see things before members of Congress would see them, so that there's an air of appearance that maybe some shenanigans are going on? You know, I don't think I assume that that's
Senator,
not the case.
What are you talking
it's
about?
Not the case.
My financial disclosures are public knowledge and have been so. You are getting amazingly wrong information.
So I cannot find them.
about?
Our office cannot find them. Where would they be if they're public knowledge? Where?
It is totally accessible to you if you want it.
For the public. Is it accessible
To the public. To the public.
Great. We look
Senator
forward to
You are
reviewing it.
totally incorrect.
Well, we
Senator
look forward to
Marshall,
reviewing it.
Senator Marshall, Dr. Fauci has answered you. It is public information, and he's happy to give it to you if you would ask. Senator Moran.
What a moron.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday made an impassioned plea for voting rights legislation.
Pass the Freedom to Vote Act. Pass it now, which will prevent voter suppression.
After visiting the grave of Martin Luther King Jr., Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris spoke at Clark University and Morehouse College, two historically black schools, calling on lawmakers to pass the legislation held up in Congress by Republican senators who have refused to support it.
Not a single Republican has displayed the courage to stand up to a defeated president to protect America's right to vote. Not one.
Biden said the threat to democracy is so grave, the voting rights bill must be debated and voted on.
And if that bare minimum is blocked, we have no option but to change the Senate rules, including getting rid of the filibuster for this.
The filibuster is a maneuver used to require a 60-vote majority in the Senate instead of a simple majority to pass a bill, a steep hurdle with the Senate split 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans. It was Biden's most direct plea to date for the Senate to change its rules.
Hear me plainly. The battle for the soul of America is not over. We must stand strong and stand together to make sure January 6th marks not the end of democracy, but the beginning of a renaissance of our democracy.